how massively uplifting it is to be in a room that looks like this. I mean, about time, but it's great.
Yeah, we're glad to have you. And I guess this sort of counts as something of an exit interview. You have a few months left.
Yeah.
At the head of GSK, and you're staying on after the transition as in an advisory role. Why now? Why was now the time to leave, to step down as CEO?
Well, I think when you are deciding to move on from a company that you love as CEO, there are a couple of things you hope for. First of all, that you can leave it in far better shape than when you began. And second of all, and I think it's really important, sometimes under-recognized, that you can prepare for the most seamless succession and transition possible to make sure that the company you love keeps accelerating. And, honestly, I'm really proud to be doing both. It was 9 years ago in September that I was asked to be a major change agent for GSK, and the company today is in a completely different position than it was then in terms of strategy and structure. We did, one of the biggest demerger of a brand new consumer healthcare business, biggest demerger in Europe this century, actually, which reset the balance sheet, allowed us to double our investment in R&D, which is the whole point of our industry, to innovate, to come back to a position of major momentum in terms of performance. So we've repeatedly upgraded our outlooks, moved for the pure play biopharma company to be just over 20 billion in revenue to more than 30 now, and with an outlook we've increased twice to be more than 40. Material move forward in profitability, but most importantly, we now have 15 major medicines and vaccines to be launched in the next few years. In oncology, we're back and winning in oncology, in respiratory, in HIV, in infectious diseases, in vaccines, and we're proud to be committed to that industry too. And perhaps above and beyond everything else, this is a company that is touching the lives of 2 billion people around the world today. So I think we've got great momentum in the business and great prospects. Always more work to do in our industry because patients are waiting. But 26 is a pivotal year with a lot more data coming through, and we now have to define the next chapter. And I think it's really important that the person who is going to deliver the next decade, in frankly the most exciting time and one ripe for disruption, necessary disruption in healthcare, that the person that's going to deliver that is the person who gets to define it. So as I said, I was asked in September 2016 to take on the job, and in December 2016 was the first time that I started talking to Luke Miles, who will be succeeding me. And I write a diary, and not every day, but it's a wonderful thing to look back on. And that day I wrote down, found Luke, dream hire. And I didn't know quite, what a great partner he was going to be, but I couldn't be more thrilled. I think he's the right person to take this on, and I'm really looking forward to applauding his and the broader team's successes as they continue to change lives around the world. So the answer is, it is not without emotion, I will definitely admit that, but it's the right time for the company, and it's the right time for me too. I did 17 years at L'Oreal, I'll do 16 at GSK, and who knows what the next 15 are going to take.
Yeah, we're going to get to that. Throughout your tenure, investors never seem like fully sold, or never really sort of. How much does that weigh on you, the stock price? Was it a factor in your decision making in terms of leaving?
No, I think first of all, it would be disingenuous to say that it doesn't matter, because let's remember, we work for patients. Of course, we work for shareholders. We're a public company. And we also work for our people. I mean, we have 70,000 people in 80 countries around the world. And our industry is possibly the ultimate definition of the multi-stakeholder industry, including healthcare systems, healthcare providers, NGOs. GSK has topped the access to medicine indices worldwide, I think 8 out of our 9 years, number one for providing access to these. So as I said, we are proud of the scale of our impact and of championing the prevention of disease. Actually, I try not to comment too much on the share price, particularly because in our industry it can be incredibly volatile due to external factors that, mass tort lawsuits for a drug that was launched when I was in high school, or obviously the current policy environment can be challenging as well. So you have to navigate through these things. But what I seek to do is measure our success in terms of the operating progress. I think we've had in the last 5 years at least 6 in-year upgrades, 2 medium, in fact, 3 medium and long-term upgrades to our outlook. So we just keep doing what we say we're going to do, and I'm sure the recognition of the value will follow in due course, and I can't wait to see that happening.
Right. So you talk about some of the policies, of course, that are coming out of the Trump administration, and one thing that the White House is really pressing drug companies for is to lower drug prices, and we've seen Pfizer and AstraZeneca strike deals. Where are you in conversations with the administration on that?
Well, first of all, if we just step back, we're a British company, but 2% of our sales are in the UK and 52% of them are in the US. So you just have to make, and that, by the way, that was a deliberate choice I made coming in as CEO. When I began, I think it was just about over a third of the business, but we invested because this is the superpower of the world today, in terms of innovation in healthcare. And, whether it's the phenomenal academic institutions, at least historically, the amount of funding that's gone into research, the amount of business development you can do in some of the most exciting cities in the world here, and we do more and more of our pipeline building as across the industry with business development, but it's also the market in the world where at least some of society gets access first to the very best of innovation. And let's not forget that the value that we add in our industry is stopping disease in its tracks, and there's still an enormous amount of unmet need, whether that's in cancer or neurodegeneration or in respiratory disease, or in fact still in infectious diseases. So our first priority is to innovate, and this country is the country to innovate in. You want to bring down the demand curve on the cost of healthcare? We need more innovation to keep people well and keep people out of hospital. No debate on that. So we bet on the US. A couple of weeks ago, I committed to £30 billion worth of more investment in the US in the next 5 years, and that's in advanced R&D, AI-enabled manufacturing. We broke ground earlier this year on a new site in Pennsylvania, and 2 weeks ago, I announced an additional one for advanced biotech manufacturing. So we are massively invested here, and we are very constructively engaged with the administration at multiple levels. I'm not about to unveil the detail of those discussions, but make no mistake, we agree that the American healthcare system needs reform. It is unfair and unsustainable. We agree there needs to be more sort of access in an affordable way to more Americans to the drugs and vaccines that they need. And there's terrible inequity in the world in healthcare, but it is really difficult to see it in the richest country in the world. We also agree that more countries around the world, all countries around the world, including this one, should recognize the value of innovation to reduce the cost of healthcare. We talk a lot about drug pricing. It's only 14% of the total cost of the American healthcare system. And by the way, 90% of prescriptions in America are generic drugs that would not, in volume, that would not exist if you didn't innovate first. So we have to bend that demand curve. We have to invest in people's wellness and not spend so much on sickness. And that's why I'm also, very supportive of this investment of the sort of root causes of a deterioration in health and increase in comorbidities, right through to diet and social demographic issues that we have to get more to the roots of in our community. So there's a lot we agree with. It's not as simple as the daily headline roulette would suggest. But I think, at GSK, we talk about the purpose of the company being to combine science, tech, and human talent to get ahead of disease together. And we are an industry that needs more partnership and more collaboration than any other. And that includes with positive and constructive engagement between industry and government.
You did mention vaccines, which is a part of your business. Some sales have been down, in part, which sort of aligns with the growing skepticism of vaccines. What do you see as a pharmaceutical CEO's role in vaccine uptake, and how are you sort of approaching some of the current conversation around vaccines?
Well, the first thing I would say is we're definitely vaccines business of our three businesses is the smallest one, but it's an important one. And we are more cautious about the outlook in the US. In the rest of the world, just to be clear, vaccines businesses are growing extremely well. There is no better return on investment than stopping disease before it even starts. In this country, we spend $9 billion a year on vaccines, the hospitalization costs of people with vaccines-preventable diseases. The CDC recently published some data that showed over the last 30 years, just with basic pediatric vaccination, over 30 years, 500 million cases were prevented of disease, over 30 million hospitalizations, and more than 1 million childhood deaths. I will speak to you as a mum in this closed context amongst friends, but last week I got that call. My youngest child is in her freshman semester at university, and I had a call from a slightly hysterical 18-year-old roommate saying that she was in the emergency room. She's fine. We were in a different country. You go into that mother major mobilization mode, and all I could think, honestly, was how pleased I was I'd fought with her to get her meningitis vaccine done before she left to come to start her freshman year. And I say that as somebody who sat in high school next to a girl who died in her first term at university, age 19, of meningitis. I just say it because it's until you're in the moment, because this is about stopping disease before it starts. It's about a hypothetical prevention of something that might happen, but my goodness, it can matter. And history shows that when vaccination rates drop, infections surge around the world, and then vaccination rates come back up. And as a mum, I don't and as the CEO of a vaccines manufacturer, we can't just say to people, trust us, when we are the leading companies whose job it is to make a profit. But it's also very important that we don't raise doubts without facts, and that we go towards people's questions with transparency, as always, with science, with data, and answer people's questions. And so, as a manufacturer, again, we seek to cooperate and collaborate with governments, with states, because this isn't always a national question, and to answer people's questions that are reasonable. But I just hope that we can try and reduce some of the speculation and misinformation, which over time, can prove to be dangerous.
Mm-hmm. We have any questions in the audience for Emma? Oh, right there.
Oh my goodness, I'm happy to see you. How are you?
I'm so happy to see you. So you are well known to be a purpose-driven leader.
Likewise.
How have you instilled that into the culture of GSK?
Well, I love this question. I think, when people, and Karen, you and I have discussed this before, but of the many lessons I continue to learn, one of them is that purpose and values are always the fundamental rock on which every difficult decision can be made. And answering why we do things is something that, in fact, even reminding people why we do things for the difficult days is extremely important. Many of you will have led, through COVID. Many of you are leading through the volatility of policy and geopolitics. Many of you are leading through a world that has been completely transformed and turned upside down with both opportunity and anxiety for people in terms of what technology is going to bring. And the list of those things can go on, but reminding people when they get up in the morning why we do this, why it's worthwhile, is incredibly important and the most federating factor. And so we articulate it in our purpose, which is to get ahead of disease together. And we articulate it in our value set, which is about being ambitious for patients, accountable for our impact, and doing the right thing because we are a serious industry and people are counting on us to do our work with integrity and care. And I think being open and transparent about the tough decisions we make, but always reminding people why it's worth it. There is not an individual in the world who, in the end, doesn't care about health, whether it be for themselves or for the people that they love, for their colleagues, for their company, for their community, for their country. So in some ways, I was hearing Beth talking about the privilege of her work and going from her kind of farmer to my kind of farmer. I've been waiting to make that joke for such a long time. It's British humour, but I'm a huge fan of Beth. But the point is, this is worthwhile work. This is worthwhile work, and sometimes I just think remembering the human in us is the thing that carries us forward. But Karen Lynch, you are a wonderful example of an inspirational leader who I admire hugely because I know how deep this runs for you too.
In the past, Emma, you've sort of dismissed this idea of the superhero CEO. But we're seeing a lot of companies now appoint co-CEOs. They say, it makes more sense. This is such a big job. We need two people to do it. Is what's being asked of CEOs today sort of unsustainable, unrealistic?
Well, first of all, I think there are few things more obnoxious in life than CEOs complaining about how hard their life is.
Fair enough.
I didn't grow up thinking I would get even half a chance at this. And it is such a privilege. And as I said at the beginning of your first question, you just hope that in the time that you are given the responsibility to do something like this, you make it better than it was when you started, and you hope the person that follows you makes it better again, and that you are equipping them to accelerate. I think what's true, and I'm sure those in the room who have served as CEOs or who aspire to that, is if you have a chance to do it, I'd run at it with full and brave hearts and the biggest dreams you possibly can for impact. But I would do it eyes wide open because, to your question, I think you have to be prepared for the things you don't get to do if you want to do this job. And, I think I've just about managed to be a mum at the same time as being a CEO. Some might debate how good a wife I've been, but I've done my best. And and the kids are all fine. No, 30 years, it's good. But it's another reason why I'm looking forward to at least a mini break before I do something else. But you really have to give everything you got. And you have to know yourself. You have to be prepared from a resilience and stamina point of view. both mental and physical. If you're traveling, around the world, I think I had 38 trips to the US last year, and I will have been in 7 cities in 10 days in 3 continents. So just now, it asks that of you. But that is the responsibility that comes with it. And I think, the chance to lead, get one life. So I would say give it everything you possibly have. And it's not about being a superhero. I don't know if it's about sharing the job. Probably that can work if you get the right cocktail and combination and with the right brief. But I definitely think, even if as CEO, you have to be prepared to stand up and absorb all of the pressure and stand in front of your organization, whether it's hostile bids or activist investors or all the stuff that the visibility, the public visibility you get from this. You have to absorb all of that. But you have to remember at the same time, it's not about you. Get your ego out of the way. It's about the team. It's about the company. And it's about the people that you serve. So I'd say it's a job to be grateful for. And if you have the chance, grab it head, heart, and hands.
Yes or no question to wrap up. If you have the chance again, do you want to be a CEO again?
Of what?
You tell us. You tell us.
I don't know. I'm 56. I am genetically gifted by my parents with a degree of energy. I'm going to just, first of all, my job is to set Luke up brilliantly and to support Luke and the leadership team and 70,000 people at GSK brilliantly. And I'm so determined to do that and see them accelerate over the decade ahead, because this is an essential industry that needs to keep evolving. And then, as I said, I was 17 years at L'Oreal, and it will be 16 at GSK, and I'll see what the next 15 will hold. And all input welcome.
Well, we're looking forward to it. Please give Emma a round of applause. Thank you so much. Thanks. All right. Nubank Brazil is the 3rd largest financial institution in the South American country. Nubank's customer base represents over 60% of Brazil's adult population, with a deposit base that has grown to more than $27 billion. With an expansion into Mexico and Colombia, Nubank is one of Latin America's